Welcome to This Explainer. If you've ever spent time just looking up at the night sky, wondering how we actually make sense of that vast, seemingly chaotic scattering of stars, well, you're in for a treat today. We're not just looking at a pretty collection of stars here. We're literally examining a critical piece of cosmic architecture. We're talking about Caldwell 89, also known as the sign Norma cluster. And this cluster holds secrets that completely change how we understand the scale of our entire galaxy. Let's get right into it.
To get to our destination, we're taking a trip 3,500 light-years away from Earth. Just let that distance sink in for a second. The light we're observing from this cluster right now, it actually started its journey toward us 3.5 millennia ago. We're visiting a really fascinating stellar neighborhood located near the southern boundary of the constellation Norma. But, we aren't just making this trip for the astronomical sightseeing. We're heading here because this specific cluster fundamentally helps us measure the universe itself. It's basically a massive anchor point for astronomical math.
So, let's take a quick look at the cluster's basic ID card. Caldwell 89 goes by a few other names in the catalogs, most notably NGC 6087, but also Colander 300 and Malot 141. It's sitting deep in the southern sky, and it was actually first spotted by astronomer James Dunlop way back in 1826. Now sure, we have its precise cosmic coordinates mapped out, but the real story here is so much more dynamic than just a list of names and numbers.
Before we zoom in on the specific stars that make up Caldwell 89, we really need to ask a fundamental question. How do astronomers accurately measure vast cosmic distances? When we're dealing with objects that are thousands or even millions of light years away, well, you can't exactly stretch out a giant tape measure, right? You need reliable tools. You need standard markers out there in the sky that actually give away their true distance just based on how they behave.
And the answer to that profound question lies in something called Cepheid variables. These are a really unique class of pulsating stars. They vary in brightness with a highly stable period. Think of them like cosmic lighthouses, just steadily pulsing away in the dark. Because the time it takes for them to pulse is directly tied to their intrinsic brightness, astronomers can basically compare how bright they appear to be from Earth with how bright they actually are. And that difference? That tells us exactly how far away they are. They are absolutely vital to mapping the cosmos.
Which brings us to the first major part of our explainer, Scar Normae, the ultimate cosmic yardstick. See, situated right near the optical center of Caldwell 89 is a classical Cepheid variable named S Normae. It's essentially the beating heart of this cluster's scientific value. But, fun fact, confirming it actually belonged to the cluster wasn't exactly straightforward. At first, the initial proper motion data made its membership highly questionable. It kind of looked like a background star that was just photobombing the cluster. But then, radio velocity studies came to the rescue and verified, yes, it truly belongs to Caldwell 89. And because it's a confirmed family member, astronomers can use its incredibly stable 9.8-day cycle to calibrate the period-luminosity relation for the broader universe. That single 9.8-day cycle literally helps lock in our distance measurements across the entire galaxy. Pretty amazing, right?
Now, if we zoom out just a little bit to map the wider stellar population, a massive photometric study looked at a total of 547 stars in this specific area. But here's the catch. Out of all those hundreds of stars, only a tight group of just over 40 are actually confirmed members of the cluster, centered right there on that S Normae Cepheid. All the rest? They're just background field stars. It's essentially cosmic noise that astronomers have to very carefully filter out so they can see the true cluster.
And let me tell you, that filtering process requires some intense astronomical detective work. Take two specific red giants found in this area, for example. On one hand, we've got an M13 bright red giant star, which rigorous study confirmed is a true cluster member. But then there's a nearby M33 star. Initially, it looked like a potential red giant sibling, but the data revealed it was just too blue to be a member. So it was an imposter, completely unrelated to Caldwell 89's true family of 40-plus stars.
Now, weeding out those imposters gets even trickier because of the environment itself. This whole region of the galaxy is uniformly obscured by interstellar matter. We're talking about cosmic dust sitting right between us and the cluster, scattering the light. And this causes a constant reddening effect across the cluster, which is measured super precisely as a color excess of 0.20 magnitudes. Why does this matter? Well, if astronomers don't perfectly account for this reddening, the stars look older and cooler than they actually are, throwing off literally all of our calculations. But once the team meticulously filters out the background stars, drops the red giant imposters, and does the math to correct for that interstellar dust, a brilliantly clear picture finally emerges.
Which leads us to part 2.
age and evolution, and why Caldwell 89 is actually a young sibling in the cosmic family.
So once astronomers applied all those corrections and matched the remaining true cluster stars to standard evolutionary models, specifically something called the Salpeter initial luminosity function, they found something super striking. They observed a dramatic, clean break. In astronomy, this is known as a Hertzsprung gap, and seeing it sitting right between the main sequence stars and the red giant region of the cluster tells us exactly where these stars are in their life cycles.
That distinct evolutionary signature reveals a pretty spectacular truth about Caldwell 89. It's incredibly young. It's roughly 20 million years old, which, I know, sounds ancient to us, but in cosmic terms, that is literally just a blink of an eye. This actually makes Caldwell 89 a cosmic sibling to the much more famous Pleiades cluster, since they share a very similar age profile. So despite being 3,500 light-years away and completely hidden behind interstellar dust, we know for sure it's a youthful, vibrant cluster actively shaping its corner of the Normae constellation.
As we pan back out to Earth, seeing just how much astronomical weight this single cluster carries leaves us with a totally staggering thought. I mean, if Caldwell 89, a 20-million-year-old cluster sitting 3,500 light-years away, can act as such a crucial cosmic yardstick to calibrate our measurements of the universe, what other hidden rulers are just waiting to be uncovered in the dark corners of the Milky Way? What other perfectly timed pulsating stars are out there right now, ready to unlock the next massive breakthrough in how we understand galactic distances? It's something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep looking up, and as always, keep questioning the cosmos.